Let me ask you a question. Who's in charge, you or the voice in your head? You know the one I'm talking about. The voice that doubts, the voice that hesitates, the voice that says you're not ready, you're not good enough, or what if you fail? Most people spend their lives reacting to emotions, to stress, to fear, to the noise of the world around them. But the truth is, until you learn to control your mind, you're not truly free. See, your mind is the most powerful tool you have. It can build your future or it can sabotage it. And here's the most dangerous part. It doesn't always tell you the truth. It tells you what's familiar. It tells you what's safe. But growth doesn't live there. Now, let's be clear. Controlling your mind doesn't mean silencing it. It doesn't mean pretending fear doesn't exist. It means choosing what thoughts to listen to and which ones to let go. Control doesn't begin with strength. It begins with awareness. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess. It can imagine, create, solve, and adapt. It can dream up possibilities far beyond your current circumstances. But as powerful as it is, your mind also has limitations, and one of the most dangerous is that it does not always tell you the truth. We tend to think that if a thought comes from inside our own head, it must be valid. If we feel fear, there must be danger. If we doubt ourselves, there must be something wrong with us. But the truth is, your mind is not always objective. It doesn't always work in your favor. Much of what it tells you is shaped by habit, memory, past experiences, and the stories you've repeated to yourself sometimes for years. Imagine this, you're about to step up and try something new, speak in public, lead a team, start a business, share your art. Suddenly your mind begins to whisper, what if you fail? What will people think? You're not ready. These thoughts feel real. They feel urgent. But that doesn't mean they're accurate. Most of the time, your mind is not trying to sabotage you on purpose. It's trying to protect you. Its job is to keep you safe. And one of the ways it does that is by avoiding risk, uncertainty, and vulnerability. The mind prefers the known even if the known is small, unsatisfying, or stagnant. When you try to grow, stretch, or change, your mind sounds the alarm. Not because danger is present, but because discomfort is. And the mind interprets discomfort as a threat. That's why it's so important to become a careful observer of your own thoughts. Just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's right. And just because it shows up in your head doesn't mean you need to follow it. When you begin to see that your mind is more like a storyteller than a fact teller, everything starts to shift. You gain distance from the voice in your head. You can say, that's just a thought, instead of that's who I am. This doesn't mean ignoring your mind or pretending thoughts don't exist. It means understanding that thoughts are suggestions, not commands. They are possibilities, not final verdicts. This shift in perspective is where real power begins. When you realize that you can observe your thoughts without obeying them, you create space. And in that space is freedom, the freedom to choose. The freedom to act in alignment with your values rather than your fears. The freedom to move forward even when the voice in your head tells you to hold back. We often assume that people who do brave, bold things must have silenced their inner critic. In reality, they've just learned not to believe everything it says. They've learned that the mind can be both brilliant and biased, creative and cautious, insightful and insecure all at once. Controlling your mind doesn't mean eliminating fear, doubt, or insecurity. It means recognizing them when they show up and choosing not to let them run the show. Your thoughts are powerful. Yes, but you are more powerful still. And when you learn to question the truth of your thoughts, you don't just change your thinking. You change what's possible. Control begins in the smallest, quietest of moments, the ones that often go unnoticed. It doesn't start with force or discipline or even motivation. It starts with awareness. Before you can change what you do, you have to notice what you're doing. Before you can control your mind, you must first become aware of its patterns, its triggers, and its tendencies. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up, check their phones, rush through routines, respond to messages, stress over the day ahead, and react to whatever comes their way. They don't often stop to ask why they feel a certain way, why they made a particular choice, or whether their current habits align with the life they actually want. And it's not because they're lazy or incapable. It's because they're unaware. Awareness is the first step toward any meaningful change. It's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding intentionally. It's what allows you to pause when you feel anger rising instead of snapping. It's what helps you catch the inner voice that's pushing you toward fear, self-doubt, or avoidance. Without awareness, you're a passenger in your own mind, subject to its every twist and turn. But with awareness, you become the driver. Imagine a moment of stress. Maybe someone criticizes your work, or a meeting goes poorly, or plans fall apart. Without awareness, your mind instantly kicks into survival mode. You may lash out, shut down, distract yourself, or spiral into overthinking. You act before you even realize what's happening. But with awareness, there's a space between the stimulus and your response. In that space, you get to choose what is actually happening right now. What am I feeling? What thought is trying to take over? And is it helping or hurting? This ability to observe yourself in real time is what separates conscious action from automatic behavior. You start to notice the patterns, how you avoid challenges by procrastinating, how you seek comfort in scrolling, how you tense up when you're afraid of being judged. And with that awareness, you can intervene. You can choose to stay in the discomfort. You can decide not to run from the hard thing. You can remind yourself that fear is not always a reason to stop. Awareness doesn't erase difficulty. It just gives you clarity. It gives you the ability to see your mind as it is, not as it pretends to be. It reveals your habits, your emotional reflexes, and your conditioned responses so that you can understand them, question them, and eventually reshape them. This is not a one-time realization. It's a practice. It's something you cultivate daily through reflection, mindfulness, journaling, or simply checking in with yourself. It's asking, what am I feeling right now and why? It's noticing when you're caught in a loop of worry or negativity. It's becoming aware of the tone you use when you talk to yourself. Is it kind? Is it fair? Or is it the voice of someone who's trying to shrink you? The more often you return to this place of awareness, the more control you gain. Not over the world around you, but over the world within you. And that's where the real power is. Because when you're aware, you're no longer a slave to every emotion, every doubt, or every fear that crosses your mind. You can let the thought pass without letting it steer the wheel. In the end, awareness isn't just the start of control, it is control. It's the foundation upon which all meaningful self-mastery is built. You can't change what you don't notice. But once you do, everything becomes possible. Every day, thousands of thoughts pass through your mind. Some are random, some are emotional, some are deeply personal. They appear without warning and often without logic. One moment you might be dreaming big, feeling confident and excited, and the next, a thought slips in telling you that you're not good enough, that you'll fail, that you're wasting your time. These thoughts can feel incredibly real. They carry weight, emotion, and urgency. But here's the truth, you are not your thoughts. This idea can be difficult to accept at first because we're taught to identify with our minds. We say things like, I'm anxious, I'm angry, I'm not good at this, and in doing so, we merge who we were with what we think or feel. But thoughts are not facts. They are not permanent. They are not always true. They are mental events passing clouds in the sky of your awareness. Some are helpful, some are harmful, and many are simply habits formed over time. When you believe that you are your thoughts, you give them power. A single negative thought can shape your mood, your decisions, and your confidence. If your mind says you're not capable and you believe it, you won't even try. If your mind says they're going to judge you and you buy into that story, you'll hold back. But when you begin to understand that your thoughts are separate from your identity, everything begins to shift. You are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. Think of your mind like a radio that's always playing. Some channels are empowering, others are critical. Some bring peace, others bring chaos. You can listen to what's playing without believing that every word is true or relevant. You don't have to take every thought seriously. You don't have to act on every impulse. You get to choose which thoughts you give your attention to and which you simply let go. This shift in perspective doesn't silence your inner critic, but it changes your relationship to it. Instead of being controlled by it, you become curious about it. Why did that thought show up just now? Is it trying to protect me from something? Is it based on fear, on past experiences, on someone else's expectations? You begin to question the automatic narratives your mind creates. And in doing so, you loosen their grip on you. One of the most liberating practices is learning to say, I'm having the thought that. Rather than I am, for example, instead of saying, I'm a failure, you can say, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. It's a small shift in language, but a massive shift in consciousness. Suddenly, there's space between you and the thought. It's no longer a fixed identity, it's a temporary mental event. This awareness doesn't mean you ignore your thoughts or deny your feelings. It means you give yourself the freedom to examine them, to challenge them, and ultimately to choose which ones you allow to influence your actions. Not every thought deserves your time. Not every story your mind tells is worth believing. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. You are not your anxiety or your anger or your insecurity. These are things you experience, not things you are. At your core, you are something deeper and more stable than the constant chatter of your mind. You are the Awareness behind the thoughts, the one who watches them come and go, the one who can choose differently. When you stop identifying with every passing thought, you begin to reclaim your power. You become more grounded, more intentional, more free. And in that space between thought and self, you find clarity not just about what you're thinking, but about who you really are. There is a moment, a small, often unnoticed moment that exists between what happens to you and what you do next. In that space lies a choice. Do you react automatically or do you respond intentionally? The difference between the two may seem subtle, but it's one of the most important distinctions you can make in your life. Reaction is immediate, impulsive, and emotionally driven. Response is deliberate, thoughtful, and grounded in awareness. One is a habit. The other is a skill. Most people live in reaction. Something stressful happens, a rude comment, a mistake, a setback, and the mind immediately flares up. Without thinking, we raise our voice, send the angry message, shut down, blame others, or make a decision we later regret. It feels instinctive because it is. Reactions are fast and often based on old patterns. They are your brain's attempt to protect you, to assert control, or to avoid discomfort. But protection doesn't always mean progress. Just because a reaction is familiar doesn't mean it's right. Response, on the other hand, requires a pause. That pause is what allows you to catch yourself. It's what gives you a chance to ask, what's really going on here? What do I actually want in this situation? What would serve me best in the long run? It's not about suppressing emotion or pretending to be calm. It's about recognizing emotion, understanding it, and then choosing to act in alignment with your values, not your impulses. The space between reaction and response is small, but it's where all your power lies. It's the space where emotional intelligence is built. When you practice noticing your emotional triggers, what makes you angry, what shuts you down, what causes anxiety, you begin to see the patterns. With that awareness, you can start to shift your behavior. You can still feel the same emotions, but you no longer have to let them drive your actions. This is especially important in relationships. How many arguments escalate because someone reacted without thinking? How many misunderstandings are fueled by assumptions and defensiveness? When you learn to respond instead of react, communication improves, trust deepens. Conflict becomes easier to navigate because a response creates space for understanding, while a reaction often closes it off. Responding doesn't mean you become passive or detached. It means you act with intention. You can still speak up, set boundaries, and take bold steps, but you do it from a place of clarity rather than chaos. You choose your words. You consider the impact. You own your emotions without letting them control you. Building the ability to respond instead of react takes practice. It means slowing down in moments where everything inside you wants to speed up. It means learning to breathe through tension, to sit with discomfort, to reflect before you act. Over time, your nervous system learns that not every challenge is an emergency, not every opinion is a threat, and not every emotion needs immediate expression. As you strengthen this skill, you'll notice a change in your life. You'll feel more in control, less regretful, more connected to others. You'll make better decisions, not just in moments of stress, but in all areas: work, relationships, personal growth. Because when you choose to respond, you're choosing alignment over reaction, clarity over chaos, and strength over instability. In the end, your power is not in how fast you react, but in how wisely you respond. That small pause between stimulus and action, that is where your growth lies. That's where maturity begins. That's where you stop letting the outside world dictate who you are and start leading your life from the inside out. ChatGPT said, discomfort is not something most people seek out. In fact, much of modern life is designed to avoid it: convenience, entertainment, distraction, numbing. We scroll, we binge, we dodge difficult conversations. We stay in the familiar even when it's unfulfilling because it's comfortable. But the truth is, growth and comfort do not live in the same place. If you want to grow, to evolve, to become the person you're capable of being, you have to be willing to embrace discomfort. Not just tolerate it, embrace it, because discomfort is the signal that you are stepping into something new. Growth always comes with resistance. When you stretch a muscle, it aches. When you learn a new skill, it's awkward. When you face a fear, your heart races. That's not failure. That's the process. Discomfort is the body and mind adjusting to unfamiliar territory. And the more willing you are to stay in it, to breathe through it, to learn from it, to not run away, the more resilient and capable you become. The problem is that we often interpret discomfort as a sign that something is wrong. We assume that if we feel anxious or uncertain, we're on the wrong path. But that's not true. Discomfort isn't a red light. It's often a green one. It's a sign that you're moving beyond the limits of your current identity, that you're challenging habits, beliefs, and behaviors that no longer serve you, that you're rewriting the story of who you are and what you're capable of. Think about anything worthwhile: starting a business, building a relationship, getting in shape, healing from the past, changing careers. None of it happens without discomfort. There are doubts. There are days when it feels easier to quit. There are moments when your mind will beg you to go back to what's easy. But if you only do what's comfortable, you will keep getting the same results. Growth asks more of you. It asks you to show up when you want to shut down. It asks you to speak up when your voice shakes. It asks you to keep going when the outcome is uncertain. The people who grow are not the ones who avoid fear, they're the ones who learn to walk with it. They see discomfort not as something to fear, but as something to use. They understand that it's part of the path. That fear of failure means you care. That awkwardness means you're learning. That hard conversations mean you're building real relationships. That confusion means your mind is expanding. And the more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more comfortable you become with it. Like a muscle, resilience grows through repeated exposure. What once felt impossible starts to feel familiar. What once scared you now challenges you. You begin to trust yourself not because things get easier, but because you get stronger. Embracing discomfort doesn't mean seeking pain or chaos. It means choosing to stay present in moments that stretch you. It means not turning away from the hard thing just because it's hard. It means recognizing that the things you avoid are often the very things you need most. Discomfort is the doorway to growth. And most people spend their lives standing at the threshold, too afraid to walk through. But once you do, once you prove to yourself that you can survive the unknown, that you can show up even when it's messy, that you can handle challenge without retreating, you begin to trust in your own ability to change. That trust is powerful. That trust becomes the foundation for everything you build next. So don't run from discomfort. Step into it, let it shape you, let it strengthen you. Because what feels uncomfortable today may become your strength tomorrow. And what feels like fear now may soon become freedom. ChatGPT said the quality of your thoughts shapes the quality of your life. What you think, you begin to feel. What you feel, you begin to believe. What you believe, you begin to act on. And those actions, repeated over time, create your reality. Change your thoughts, and you change everything. This isn't just a motivational phrase, it's a principle rooted in how the human mind works. Your external life is often a reflection of your internal dialogue. Most people don't pay much attention to the thoughts that run through their minds each day. They assume their thoughts are just how it is. But what we often forget is that our thoughts are not passive observations, they're interpretations. They filter everything. 2, people can go through the same experience and walk away with completely different views because of how they interpret it. One sees failure, the other sees a lesson. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. The difference isn't what happened. The difference is in the thinking. If your mind is full of thoughts like I'm not good enough, nothing ever works out for me, or why bother trying, then it's nearly impossible to live a hopeful, motivated, or confident life. Those thoughts slowly shape your behaviors. You avoid opportunities, you stop trying to withdraw. And then life begins to reflect exactly what you feared. But if you begin to change the narrative, even slightly, the shift is powerful. Thoughts like, I can figure this out, this is hard, but it's not the end, or I've come through worse, open the door to different choices, different energy, and different results. This kind of change doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice and consistency. You can't simply plaster positive affirmations over deeply rooted beliefs and expect transformation. You have to challenge old thoughts with evidence. You have to notice them in real time and decide whether they serve you or sabotage you. That's where awareness comes in, the ability to observe your thoughts without immediately believing them. Start by listening. Pay attention to the internal commentary that runs through your mind each day. What does it say when you make a mistake? What does it whisper when you face uncertainty? Is it kind, fair, encouraging, or is it harsh, cynical, and limiting? Often we speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to someone we love. And yet we expect to thrive under that kind of criticism. Change starts when you begin to speak to yourself differently. Reframing your thoughts doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means looking at the same situation through a more empowering lens. It means choosing a perspective that leads you forward instead of keeping you stuck. For example, instead of thinking, I failed, so I must be a failure, you can think I failed, which means I tried and now I know more than I did before. One thought leads to shame and paralysis. The other leads to growth and action. Your thoughts are the foundation of your mindset, and your mindset determines how you show up in the world. When you consistently choose thoughts that align with growth, possibility, and self-compassion, you start to make different decisions. You take more risks, set better boundaries, pursue goals with more courage, and bounce back from setbacks with more strength. Over time, this internal shift creates external change. Your relationships improve because you no longer act out of insecurity. Your goals become more achievable because you believe in your ability to handle the process. Life doesn't necessarily become easier, but you become better equipped to navigate it. Changing your thoughts is not about blind optimism. It's about reclaiming authorship over your own mind. It's about choosing the kind of life you want to build and then thinking in alignment with that vision. Because the thoughts you nurture today become the reality you live tomorrow.